reclined bound angle pose or reclined cobbler's pose, reclined soles of your feet together, knees wide. Knees in a little closer. Hips. My knees are a little bit higher. Most comfortable, right? We're not, again, like we're not looking for intensity of sensation here. We just want the legs to fall where the legs would normally naturally fall without strain, without a lot of intense feeling of stretch there. And then the sandbags really can just help with that, just additional weight as that feeling of deepening the release without pulling on muscle, connective tissue, right? Joints. Okay, let's start there. Supta Baddha Konasana, as per our usual here. Take a minute to settle in. Get things right. Belly breathing here, right? Belly breathing, down regulating for the nervous system. Long exhalation, breathing low into the abdomen. Can you just watch yourself settling in? Just watch yourself slowly, gradually, fully arrive. Sometimes, some days it's easy for that to happen fairly all at once, quickly, and some days we're just a little more distracted for whatever reason. So just notice your own mind's attention to clean. Just let yourself find quiet. In the space of your body, in the space of your mind becoming more quiet and still, restful. If it's comfortable for you, if you are supported in such a way that you can very gently breathe more into the rib cage, base of the rib cage, so you feel a little bit of a spread of the bones of the rib cage, the breastbone, the chest, very gently. Very gently, feel a little more rise, a little more lift in the rib cage and the chest. It might help to let the back of the head press. If you're using a block, press back of the head, a little more pressure in the back of the head, and helps just lift very lightly, gently lifting through the upper back. And the chest can lift and broaden, and then release. Take another breath like that. And then just breathe normally, naturally. Good. And then begin just to slowly take a little bit of movement through your hands. Maybe circle your hands around your wrist a few times, with the tips of the fingers across the tips of the thumbs. We'll slowly begin to work our way out of this supported pose, just coming to the props, setting sandbags aside, loosening your belt if you're even using the belt or the yoga belt or strap. You can slip your feet out of the strap and extend your legs. And then maybe just take a breath here. Feeling your body releasing and letting go of the pose through the hips and the legs. Let's come over onto a side. Okay, and then we'll come from there and set up for supported child's pose. So we were breathing kind of up and into the front, anteriorly into the rib cage, through the chest, to the sternum, and feeling this kind of opening and spaciousness. I want to move that to the back of the rib cage. So we'll take maybe just a bolster, maybe a bolster and a sandbag if you have sandbags. Right, where you come to knees wide. You're using the bolster as your reclined support. And you want this just to feel, this can feel like a little bit of, like a turtle shell, a little bit of rounding in the back if that's comfortable for you. And then a little bit of just this weighted support across the sacrum, if you can wrangle your sandbag. So lots of space to breathe, but having the bolster here, it forces a little resistance now from the front of the body into the bolster, so that maybe we can just let that help direct the breath into the back spine, into the back rib cage. So take a moment here just to set things right for you. Head turned one way or the other. You could also rest head on hands if you'd rather just not rest with your head turned to one side. Let's take a few minutes with the head resting on one cheek, and then we'll turn the head and rest on the other cheek. Every now and then redirect attention to the back, to the posterior of the rib cage and the spine. every now and then a breath that lifts and spreads and opens the shoulder blades, the rhomboids, the intercostals on the back of the rib cage. And then you can just breathe comfortably, whatever way feels just comfortable for your body, the position of your body with your prop. And then every now and then, back into lifting, acknowledging the back body. Let's go ahead and just turn your head if you haven't already turned your head. Rest on the opposite cheek. Turn the neck, let the neck rest. So let's take another 2 or 3 breaths here. reach back and slide the sandbag off of my low back and then push my hands to the floor to bring myself off of the bolster. And then let's take a couple of blocks. If you have a couple of blocks, this is a really nice supported back bend. If you have 2 blocks, okay, and you could be using, if you don't have actual yoga props, of course you could, guesstimate heights and use a few books stacked up for this. I like to set the blocks up so that I have one in a normal size block on its long side, and then I have one block that is set up on its tall edge. So if you have blocks, please go ahead and just set your blocks up that way. I also have I work with some folks privately that have more challenges in the chest and the shoulders with just like a tightness here, and they're much more comfortable with this lower block on its flat side. Okay, if you have a couple of blocks, or if you have alternate means of setting up some props that approximate this, and if they're harder than a foam block, of course, just throw a blanket, something to cushion over books if you happen to be using books or something harder than a foam yoga block. And then I'm going to have the bolster to support my knees. Okay, supported like that. So this is a really nice pose too, to counter any habitual postural holding or movements that keep you folded or folded toward the ground. Shoulders in, chest a little concave. This again just helps to reverse some of that. I started subbing this week. Last week actually, but this week I'd had a couple of assignments, and one was an afternoon in an elementary school with kindergartners. So I was, spent 4 hours just sort of crouching, leaning over, bending over, crouching down to a level of a 6-year-old, constantly up and down like that. And then yesterday, about 5 hours, really just sitting in a chair on a computer. So let's take just a few minutes to counter whatever 9 hours of what can take a bit of a toll on the body, on the upper back and the shoulders and the chest. Right. And then from, just from those areas where you tend to feel the immediate effects of postural habit, right? Those effects travel up and down the whole kinetic chain of your body. So we'll set this up and take again a few minutes to settle in, and then just feel what you feel. Adjust what you need to adjust. Since we are not on the cushioned aspect of a bolster under the back, under the spine or the head, I wouldn't recommend trying to breathe too deeply into the rib cage, into the upper register. Might just let the breath focus itself, concentrate itself in the belly. Let the body become a very passive receptacle for your breath. Let's take just another couple of breaths here. If it feels okay, if it feels manageable to do that little press of the back of your head down into the block so that you could comfortably bring your chest up, just feel a little bit of space between your upper back and that lower block. And then maybe you could use a hand to slide it a little bit out of the way and then just fall over onto one side. Pause here. And then move yourself onto your back without any blocks behind the head, the upper back. Just let your knees rest back over your bolster if you're using the bolster. Take a couple of breaths here in that interoceptive pause to feel. How the body feels here, post pose without the blocks. Then let's take the feet up so we can use the feet to roll the bolster out from behind your knees, so it's off of your space here. Bring the knees to the chest. With exhalation, pull your knees to your chest. With inhale, holding on to the knees, just let the knees go away from you. Send the knees away from you with the inhale. Exhale, knees to chest. In and out like that, 2 or 3 more times. Almost don't even have to use your hands, right? Your breath naturally sends the legs away as the belly fills up. Belly empties, the weight of your legs falls back in closer toward you. Let's do one more. And then let's take, if you want to, I guess I should always just give you the option of taking spinal rotation, either in the full supported classical restorative with your bolster here, and you're lying over your bolster, very passive spinal rotation with the bolster, or without the bolster but on your back, right? So where you are on your back with your knees or onto one side. But here as well, you could add a whole bunch of support. Because facing upward, right, is a little more activating, it's a little more stimulating for your nervous system. That's why restorative poses are so often facing the floor and resting your head, really resting the brain, down regulating the nervous system. If you prefer doing the recline twist on your back, I like to have just a whole bunch of blanket and bolster up to support and make this feel a little bit more restorative. Okay, so I have a bolster up against my back, and then it's low enough on my back though that I still have space for my rib cage to rotate back, but I want a little bit of cushion underneath that back arm. Under that shoulder, just where there always is a tiny little bit of a gap. And then I'm going to take another blanket and just cushion the space between the 2 knees where the arms are stacked. And then even here, you could go even a little further with sandbags if you wanted to just weight down over the outer thigh or the opposite shoulder. You could go to sandbags wherever you are in a supported twist, either facing the floor or on your back. Let's be here. Let's take another couple of breaths on this side. And then just release the twist. You're on your back, come fully over onto the side where your hips and your legs are. Up from there, push yourself up off bolster if you're using the bolster. Go the other way. Take side 2. As little disturbance, as little effort as you can make. Bolster just right up against the lower back. Extended arm, supported, and a little between the knees. Settle in. Oh, Melinda, you are not muted. Either muted when we're recording. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And then coming out again, all the way over to the side where your hips and legs are resting. And then we'll press up from our sides again. Let's set all of that aside so that you have a clear space on your blanket or mat and come back down onto your back. Do a brief little yin pose here, where we come up sort of the deconstructed lying down on your back cow face pose, where we come up with the right arm, lift the head, bring the palm against the upper back, bring the left hand to the right elbow. Let the head sink back, let's let the head fall back, and then give your feet a push. Push your feet down and away so that you descend weight a little more comfortably. Here, let's just take 5 breaths. We just introduced a whole lot more intensity, tension around the joint. Good, and then let the left hand go, let the right arm go, bring both arms down, bring your arms away, let your head come to the floor. Switch, left arm up, right hand, left elbow. Nestle the weight of the head into the arm. Take 5 breaths. And then again, let the right hand go, let the left arm come out from behind you, underneath you. Head to the floor, arms alongside you. Pause, slide the heels out. Take a breath here. Right, so let's set up for Shavasana. Keep feeling like I want to I always want to throw more in. More is more. And this practice is really more about less. So let's set up for Shavasana now, so we have more time in the pose. So that can be really any kind of support. If you want more time, make it minimal. Just go ahead and settle yourself right in. Just that little bit of support for my head. I'm actually going to turn it this way and then use the blanket itself to create a little more of like this little kind of cradle, little culvert for my head and my neck. My neck is a little more supported that way. And then just bolster knees. And blanket completely unfolded. It's just another layer. Feel just the slightest little bit of evening chill approaching. I want just a layer. Let's take a 10-minute Shavasana. Give yourself the full time for the fuller experience. Mindful rest. Like almost a little mini yoga nidra, the yogic sleep. A little taste of that. Allowing the breath to really fall into its own very restful, spacious rhythm. Might even be kind of arrhythmic. Just let it come and go on its own time. And then begin to lengthen and deepen your next 2 or 3 breaths. Of course, if you have time to stay, it's a nice idea to just stay maybe another 5 or even 10 minutes, but we'll go ahead and just close. You're bringing yourself onto your side once again. Up from your seat. Your eyes soft, palms together in front of your heart. Take a moment. Just close your practice. Honor your time here, honor your intention. Once again, making time for this, for your body, mind, breath, spirit, psyche. Till next time. Namaste.